Hello, folks. This is a fascinating episode of Analyst Cam. Uh, Ken Gould is going to be presenting, but he and I and Ken's wife, Shirley, are members of a group called Uncommon Travelers. And I saw him present recently on 18 of his most exotic travel experiences. And he's been to 138 countries. They're about to go on a trip that'll take them over the 150 mark. But these are 10 experiences that are not just going to a city or whatever. They have to go deep into the countryside in the middle of winter. I mean, just the weather, the food, the extremes they go to. It's just unbelievable. So, Ken, welcome. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. I enjoy, as you know, I enjoy pontificating on places around the world. It's a wonderful world as we have.
Well, I'm only letting you present on your top 10 experiences, but you could do 1,000 of them. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Having me?
Well, thank you for having me. Um, I like to promote independent travel. As you see, the joy of experiencing the world on off the well-worn path. We've been traveling for 52 years, and we have taken three tours. I will admit that we went to see the total eclipse of the sun because of the Gobi Desert. We went to see the gorillas because I wanted to do the volcanoes. Company has some wonderful lodges, and we did Antarctica on research vessels, which required you to take it. Otherwise, we are a car and driver, and we see these places that are not gone to by an awful lot of companies, and they're great experiences, and they really let you know about a country a lot more so, and get to meet the people on the ground. So, shall I
These
start?
10 are, Ken, these 10 are fascinating. So I'm looking forward to hearing them again. I've seen your presentation before, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, we start off with Harbin, China. Harbin is a 10 million person city just north and east of Beijing. Easy to do. Fly into it. You go to a hotel. They can hook you up with a taxi driver. Can take you over to the entrance. It's a huge area north of town, and it's easy to get tickets. You get to pay four times more. At least we were there because the international people pay more but than the locals, but they let you in a separate entrance. But it's a beautiful place. You can see it's cold. It's the month of January and February, and there's where Harbin is, north of Beijing, right? The Beijing's right there, and they build huge buildings out of totally ice and decorate them with lights and ice sculptures, ice carvings. It's on a huge area that you go through, and as you can see, there's just wonderful buildings. They build slides. They build, in this case, a thermometer. That's a reading thermometer that you have. It's just something that's quite unusual, and
Ken, do they do this? They have their start every year? Does it melt?
every year it's January and February. And what they do is they actually put ice away from the previous year and keep it in warehouses because they can't get all the ice they need. So they do that. And then they start bringing it out in December and build all this. There's lots of competitions. And then downtown, there's also an ice festival, which is free to go to, that have people who are aspiring to get into the big competition. So I was to say to you that you could go there, Harbin, China, in January and February, and an added bonus is they have a wonderful Siberian tiger park,
Ah,
so that you can go to see the Siberian tigers, which are wonderful. And they have malls. This is a mall downtown, and you get to meet the people who most of the time, the younger people, want to speak to you because they want to speak English. So you get a chance to have a lot of conversations with people and interact. Another place to go is northern Chile, the Atacama Desert. It's the high plains, 10,000 plus feet, 10 to 15,000 feet up in the northern part of Chile. And it's the driest or the second driest place on earth, depending on which part of it you go to. It is rugged. They've shot movies up here to be like Mars. beautiful cones of volcanoes as you get along the Andes, and the largest lithium, gold, um, copper, lots of minerals. This is a lithium lake, but it's all at over 10,000 feet. It's just a wonderful a high elevation place. As you can see, the volcanoes are spectacular. That's a small little village up there. There I am out on doing some walking at 10,000 and my wife, but you can see a stunning landscape, and that's the guanaco. I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce that, but it's a wonderfully interesting animal. Hot springs, boiling springs, very similar to what you see at Yellowstone.
Yep.
And the boiling springs there in the morning, especially, really boil up and be nice. The other advantage of the Atacama Desert is an astronomer's paradise. Chile is the best place on earth to go to enjoy a starry night. And there we are, a starry night, and another picture there. That's where all the telescopes are. So you can't. It's 10 to 12, 14,000 feet, and it's easy to get to. Fly into northern Chile and just have a driver take you over to
So this is
Atacama.
so this is one of the best places to see the Milky Way then.
Oh, beautiful place to see the Milky Way, and it's pretty much available every day of the year because some places haven't rained in 5 years.
Whoa. Okay.
So it's a thing. Okay, another place to do is Tibet. Now, Tibet is someplace that a lot of people go to, but what they do is they go to Beijing or they get permission and they take the train in to Lhasa or they fly into Lhasa. Well, Lhasa is based on the high plains of Tibet at 10, 12, 14,000 feet. Well, the problem is you fly in and you never see the elevation because the China side is basically it's a gradual rising plateau. And you go to Lhasa and then you travel around near Lhasa and you don't see the dramatic Himalayas because that's not where they are. What you want to do is you want to come in from Kathmandu, China, Kathmandu, Nepal, and go across the Friendship Bridge. And that is where the Himalayas are. And that is some of the most dramatic scenery you will see in the world. It is stunning. It's a little harder there. You have to arrange a car and driver in Lhasa to pick you up in Kathmandu. And this is where they're looking at Kathmandu, Everest, Lhasa. So you can see they're not too far from each other. And the roads are great down there. The Chinese built the roads during the Olympics to have people come down to that area. So the roads are good. You have to stop for 24 hours. This is right across the border from Nepal and Nyland. And it's a Soviet type city, Chinese type city of modern, but we stop in there for 24 hours to acclimate to the elevation. And we saw more Americans there who were doing hiking and other things who were stopping to acclimate, and they have a couple pubs. So it's not like you're in the total, wilderness. But what you get by coming in this way is stunning scenery like this. There's the prayer flags. That's the Himalayas. You come through all this, and then the piece de resistance, on the way to Mount Everest. This is a way you can get to Mount Everest directly without having to hike about 6 to 8 kilometers, which you have to do on the Nepal side. So you do this. There's the base camp for the Tibetan base camp for Everest. That's Everest in the background. And there we are at Everest, the base camp. Didn't go any further than that. And there's Mount Everest from the Tibet side, which is that's unusual. Having that few of clouds is unusual. There's Everest again this is from a plateau to the north of Everest. And there it is, the Everest you see there's the Himalayas right there. We're off from them in another ridge of mountains and the Tibetan plateau. So it's just absolutely gorgeous up there. You
And
get to meet the people.
I'm amazed
Yep.
you only had to spend a day in that hotel to get used to the altitude.
Right. Just a day.
Wow. If you're in good shape,
Huh? Do what?
I said you must be in good shape.
Well, I don't know. We of course we've traveled to other elevations, but if you have to stay longer, if you get sick or something, yeah, you would stay longer. But then down in that area, you have villages with people. You get to go to schools. We went to schools, and the kids all wanted to try to speak English with us, and we get a lot of people pictures, and you get to meet the people, and that's what's one of the main things. Then on the way on into Lasha, you see your typical monasteries that you get everybody. This is the summer palace in Lasha, and this is the Porta Palace in Lasha that you get to climb up. But again, the highlight of it is to come in from Nepal.
Okay.
Another place to go is Easter Island. Now, a lot of people know about Easter Island. It's just it's not the easiest place to get because you got to take a very long airplane flight out of Santiago, Chile. But it's well worth going to. It's the people there. You only get one plane a day, and they probably only have at any one point in time maybe 1,000 tourists or less on the island. They have bed and breakfast, small hotels, lots of little small places to eat, but it's not really commercialized. And the moais are all around the monuments that you get to see the typical, and people see this on National Geographic all the time. So it's nothing unusual. But they're all over the place. There's that famous lineup of the statues. And when you get to there, I learned how to eat ceviche, which is raw tuna pickled in lemon juice. It's not sushi, but it's pickled in lemon juice, and it's quite good. I got to really liking it. It was every trip I take.
Is it like ceviche? Is it like ceviche or?
Yes,
Okay.
it is ceviche.
Oh, it's ceviche. Okay.
Ceviche. Yeah, and that's very good. So anyway, I learned a little even that. There we are in front of the moais, and there's that. We took a tour around the island, saw the farming and all the history of the island. That's the only one of two that has a white eye, and they're not exactly sure why. This is the crater of a volcano that's part of making the island. So there. So that's what's good. Another place, and people go all over the world, and they don't go just 250 miles, 300 miles south of here. I have friends in this travel club. They've never been to Fantasy Fest, yet they go to all these festivals all over the world. And I'm saying, go to Fantasy Fest. Oh, it's terrible. No, not really. It's quite interesting. The body painting is something that I find very fascinating. And it's not much different than what you'd see on the beach. And it's quite artistic. And there's lots of competitions for being artistic. And the people are friendly. I would say to go one day for a lot of people is enough. It's hard to get one day overnight in hotels there. So stay up in Marathon and drive down, stay until, get there early in the afternoon and stay until after the parade at night. And you'll get a pretty good feel for what the body paint. Some have some clothes on, some have none, but it's all body painting.
The lady with the striped
Yes, no
amazing,
clothes.
amazing the work that is. I mean, just it is art, truly.
Yes, it is art. It's very artistic. Neither of these two had on any clothes. So you can see, but it's not noticeable, and especially if they're using latex paint, it's hardly any different than having on a cloth when you're using thick latex paint. So anyway, it's something that I'm saying that you can go down there, and it really creates an interesting dynamic. People go all over the world and don't go down to Fantasy Fest. The next one is the total eclipse of the sun. And as I mentioned earlier, that's one of the ones we had to take a tour on because they had to set up ger camps in the desert out here, separate from everything. It was temporary camps to see the total eclipse. But if you haven't seen a total eclipse, you must do it. It's one that people do. And the reason I put that in here is that coming up on April 8th, there is a total eclipse coming across the United States. So
Margaret and I are going to be in Dallas, and we're making arrangements to see it there.
Good. Yeah. It's well worth going to see there. Make sure you have your glasses, and then they set these temporary clams up. This is just some of the pictures I I had for the eclipse. You see, that's the ring. If you get the camera, there's so I got lucky. You'll see the solar flare over there on the right-hand side. That's the you can't always get a big solar flare like that. Then in 2017, I saw it a second time in Kentucky. They came through Kentucky, and this is the whole family, grandchildren, everybody else went to see it there. And then you have April 8th, 2024. It's coming across almost the same area of southern Indiana, Illinois, and as you say, down in Texas, which is where you'll be. So well worth going to see. Another one is Komodo Island. It's the island at the end of the archipelago of with all of Indonesia, and it's down there at the end, and it is where the Komodo dragon is native to. You have to take a boat that's over. We stayed on a boat. Now I don't know, they may have upgraded some of the things in the last few years, but you take a boat over, stay on the boat, go to Komodo Island, and it's a fairly rugged island, and you have to go find the dragons. There is wildlife. There's the deer and oxen on the island for them to eat, and then you trek through the island to go see them. There you see there's the Komodo dragon, and he's looking at the deer over here. So it's a kind of an interesting dynamic. But there's the dragon, and you get to see him up close and personal. There, you got to be careful, but your guides know what to do once you're on the island. The dragon has a third eye. It's not, they don't know exactly why it is, but and you can see powerful claws and a bite that will kill you. And there we are with the Komodo dragon. And we aren't as close. We're about 2 feet behind him. So, it's anyway, and there's the boat, and there's the sunset in the South Sea Islands, and it's just beautiful down there. And you get to see an animal that's not very much seen in other zoos. Another place to go is Victoria Falls. Now, a lot of people do go to Victoria Falls. It's one of the 2 waterfalls in the world that you have to see. It's Victoria Falls and Iguazu in South America are just spectacular. Recently, Victoria Falls had the Zambezi River had an overflow rain, and it inundated the town of Victoria. But there's 3 things to do in that area. There's Victoria Falls, there's Chobe National Park right across the river in Botswana, and lion encounters in Zambia. Very quickly, Victoria Falls, this is what it looks like. There's the falls, the river, the Zambezi River coming there on the right, the falls, and then the river continues on down. The Victoria Falls panorama from the Zimbabwe side. And then you can see the mist. That's really that's about as minor as it gets. Normally, you got to have a raincoat because the falls just put out enormous. It's nothing. Niagara Falls is nothing compared to the Victoria Falls and Iguazu in South America.
Yeah, I was going to ask you on a scale, if this is a 10, where would Niagara be? A 4 or 5?
6.
Okay.
6, yeah, I would say 6. These are especially at the high water mark. In fact, at high water mark, they almost don't recommend you going because of the fact that it's puts out so much spray that it's almost a permanent rain downtown in Victoria. It can be really. And this last year, they had to close the walkways on both sides because for about 3 weeks. So it's a sight. Next to it is Chobe National Park, and it's got all the not very much people go there, but it's got all the elephants, the hippos, the lions, and everything else, and it's a good 1-day trek. And also, they have a number of lion encounters. Now, when we went there, and this was 10 years ago, we actually walked with the lions, and there was physical contact. but it's a conservation group, and they've decided that they don't think they want to do that anymore. So they still hold a lion encounter, but they don't have you have any physical contact. But there's a half dozen other companies in that area who do let you have physical contact when walking with lion cubs. There where we were actually walking with lions, you go out into the preserve and find them. So it's a matter of what your taste is and whether you feel like having the contact is against, your idea about conservation and lions and things like that. People think differently, but you get to play with them and pet them and all that.
Wow.
And they were not they were realized, because during our time they went off and decided to try to hunt something, and they were having some playtime in the river. The other place to go, and I use this to show people that you can go to the Mount Hagen Festival in Papua New Guinea, and right there in the center, going into the jungle, going to the villages in Papua New Guinea, up the Sepik River, it can be very, very difficult. It's you go up in log boats, and you go back, and there's no electricity, no water, and it's a quite difficult trip. Very hot, a lot of bugs. But you can get a little bit of the feel of Papua New Guinea by going to the Mount Hagen Highlands Festival, where they dress up and have competitions to show off their tribal excellence in marching and dancing. And you get to really intermingle with the people. And surprisingly, a number of them actually speak English. So it's not like you're doing, but they're wonderfully costumed, and you get to see the villages close into the Mount Hagen, which is a much more civilized city, typical civilized city. It's not like a village, a native village. Then this is there.
Did you try again?
Well, try again. I didn't turn my thing off. Okay. There they are, the spacemen, and then there's the skeleton, and it really is a wonderful place to go and talk to the people. And the area around Mount Hagen is enough that you get a nice feel for Papua New Guinea without having to have the difficulty of a 1 week expedition into the heart. I tell you, we did that, and that was the hardest trip we ever did. Was that trip, 5-day trip into the heart of Papua New Guinea. And then there is one of our absolute favorite trips that we tell people about is Siberia in the winter. Siberia is a desert, and they think of lots and lots of snow. Well, it snows on the spring side and the fall side, but generally speaking, it's just cold. But it's a dry cold. And we picked up the Siberian Railroad, the Rosina, which is a first-class train. It has a first-class section, and you want to do that. And then we went across Siberia, and we elected to stop at 2 different places, Ulan-Ude and Urstuk. Ulan-Ude is where the old believers are, and I'll mention that. And Urstuk is Lake Baikal. So you want and we went with came with us my wife's cousins and her husband. But you can see the food on the train was wonderful. We meet a lot of wonderful people who everybody we met spoke English. The 2 ladies down here were the 2 minders. They took care of us on our car. And we just met a lot of really interesting people during the day when we were traveling on the railroad. Then we had each car had one Western toilet on one end and an Eastern toilet on the other end. And you went between cars. There's a dining car, there's an observation car, and then there's sleeping cars. And you want to get first class. You don't want to go second class, which is 4 to a room, and you're stumbling all over each other. But the difference in price is not that significant. You stop at Ulan-Ude, and I mentioned the old believers. They were the ones who had to leave St. Petersburg when the Russian Revolution in 1918. And so as a result, they came down here to Siberia, and they were just being left alone. But that's a Siberian town. That was Ulan-Ude, and it's interesting. You have in that area, you have Buddhist temples, you have homestays. We went to see a couple of people in their home. They had us for lunch or for dinner, and they put out a spread. You can see it's almost a 1950s type kitchen, and she had all the food out, and they had costumes for us to dress up in. And there's the outside, there's their outhouse, and there's the inside of the outhouse. So you get a full flavor for their way of living. And by doing so in the winter, you have the opportunity because first of all, not a lot of people visit Siberia, and so they like the idea of being able to host people and make some money, and it's a great place to do it. That's our van that we had. It was pretty nice transportation. You can see there's not huge amounts of snow,
Yeah.
but it was minus 30 degrees. But I can guarantee it was colder in Moscow at 0 than it was in Siberia at minus 30 because it was just totally dry. Interesting scenery, nice homes, there's some mountains, and we had the Old Believers Church, and we went to a service there where the Old Believers, we went in to see a
These
service.
are these Orthodox?
Russian Orthodox.
Okay.
Russian Orthodox, and we went to a home for lunch, and the home was on this street, and there's the spread. I mean, an army would have been there to eat that, and the ladies were so much interested in us, and they brought out. There's the three ladies who lived there, and they brought us out, and we toasted and we toasted, and that's our guide. And we put on costumes and did an enactment for a wedding ceremony.
What were you toasting? Mostly vodka?
Vodka, yes. Yes, mostly vodka. And so you put on a ceremony, and then we moved on to Erstuk, which is really a short train ride. It's only, I don't think, about 60 kilometers away. And that is the gateway to Lake Baikal, which is the deepest lake in the world. Lake Baikal has more water in it than all the Great Lakes combined.
Wow.
So we don't know about it. A lot of people don't know about it, but it is a beautiful lake, very, very, very deep. And we went to do a church, and you got to meet a lot of people. This person was a little cadet. She wasn't very old, but she was marching in this little cadet corps. A mother and her two grandchildren, and a lot of them they just want to sit and talk. On the way up to Lake Baikal, we went to stop for lunch, and we said, "Well, where's the restroom?" Down the hill, 75, about 50 yards down the hill was the outhouse, which you can see. It was a rather large hole too, so it made it difficult. But you had to walk down there.
Was the lake frozen?
Oh gosh, yes. Like it freezed to about about 8 feet, 8 to 10 feet. And there, as you can see, it's wonderful scenery. And there's Lake Baikal, part of it, going across to one of the other side, and you can see it's frozen solid. And so the cars go on it. And then we went up to a resort, which is in the summertime. A lot of Russians come there because it's a very fancy resort. Of course, nobody's there in the winter practically, so we had the resort to ourselves, and all the different things to do. We explored the lake and the various ice caves along the lake. This is the lake there. We went snowmobiling and dog sledding, so you had the chance to do both of those on the lake, and then get to meet people. This was actually in a restaurant. These children were there as part of a school trip. There was a park next door, and so we got to meet them. And again, it's going on this kind of a personal level. It really allows you to immerse yourself in the culture. This whole trip across there, we didn't see any native English speaking Americans or English or whatever. I mean, we were there among the people, and yet had wonderful guides. The guides speak perfect English, and we get that. And so then onward to back, and we took the plane on into Moscow. There's me on the computer writing up the diary, and this is our dinner on the train. And anyway, we went on into Moscow, had Moscow to ourselves, then continued on to St. Petersburg, had the Hermitage to ourselves. So it's a wonderful time of the year to go. I'm not sure Russia is the greatest place to go right now, but when things change, I recommend going. And that is my group of 10 places that are maybe to whet your appetite. I have about 36 of them that I do that shows people some of the differences. And this was the 10 we worked out. So I'm glad to share it with everybody. You have any questions?
Ken, I was going to say, can I give people your email? They may want to see the other pictures you have.
Do what now?
Can I give people your email?
Yes.
You
It's
know, just in case they
KP.
want to reach out to you to see more of what you have.
Okay. It's KP
No,
GOULD.
I'll put it in the.
Okay. Yeah, I should say I enjoy sharing this because it's so easy in today's world to travel independently. That there's no reason why you have to have a tour group. And we found that people, a couple times we did have it, you end up spending a lot of time socializing with Americans. And there's nothing wrong with that other than I'm going to these countries to learn about those countries and to be part of them. And so it's a natural thing to they want to talk, you talk with them.
I
And
asked your wife, I said, in all the travel you've done, have you ever told Ken, no, I am not going there? And she said, never. You guys are so adventuresome. It's unbelievable. And
no, there's no place that I would not go. Now you have to use some kind of common sense. You're not going to go to Ukraine right now. There's times when we've been to Haiti, but you sure wouldn't want to go to Haiti right now.
yeah,
But there's no country. Again, people are around the world. It's people are generally wonderful and accommodating and everything else. It's just with governments sometimes you have situations that are not good. But so no different than in the United States. You don't go to certain parts of towns at night. You just use the same kind of general um, uh, caution. And if you're going with a local tour guide, which is what we do, they know where to go and where not to go.
right, right. Well, Ken, I'd like you to come back after you come back from your trip, which is going to take you over the 150 country mark. Come back and present another 10.
Okay, we'll do that.
I
Look
think
forward to it.
I think it's fascinating. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.